I knew the only way I'm going to climb a ladder of success is to pull out my own and climb it myself.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the part 2 of episode 83 with Deb Curtis. We're talking about her life story and all the challenges she had overcome till date. If you've not listened to the part 1, I would urge you to listen to that part now, where she had shared with us her life as a child up until when she started her first job and the challenges she had with her boss. We're going to continue from there on, and we're going to be discussing in depth as to how she was able to overcome that and what led her to start her small business and what she's made of it and the impact she's making in the lives of women, people of color, and everyone else. So stay tuned and don't log off and listen to the end. So let's carry on, Deb. At what point did you decide to start your small business or your business, and what was the actual force that pushed you in that direction?
All right, so many of my employers, after where I was passed over, but I positively persisted my way through to promotion, I ran into more of the same. Because it was a very male-dominated industry. And I say that, but then I think to myself, SHEILA, I think a lot of industries are male-dominated, white male-dominated, with the supervisors. That would be fair to say. And I would gather most would agree with me. Through my journey, there were different stops with more of the same. More of the same. And I know I'm not alone, because I speak with other women that are in the industry, few of them, and they've experienced more of the same. But they're more reserved and quiet because they're afraid they're going to lose their income if they complain. I always believed if you see something that's not right, say something. And when it was happening to me, of course I'm going to say something. You know, trying to get the male supervisors to understand this isn't right, this isn't fair. And a few of my stops, the HR departments agreed that it was disparate treatment or discrimination because of my gender. They agreed, and then they stated that they're going to try to correct where the wrongdoings are, but it never got better. Okay. So what made me realize that I have to do something different, because my journey in corporate America, 4, 5, 6 different stops, was more of the same. I knew the only way I'm going to climb a ladder of success is to pull out my own and climb it myself. But I didn't know how, because you always think when you want to get out of corporate that you have to start up a business from ground zero. But thankfully, this career I chose in America, it's called SBA, it's our Small Business Administration. They guarantee loans for business owners that are unsecured so that the banks will lend the money. And thankfully, that choice of industry made me realize I can do this on my own by helping individuals and packaging up their SBA loan application and source, ironically, all these different banks that I've worked for. I have people that worked at the banks that loved me, and they knew my heart and my ethics and my integrity, and the underwriters and the closers love me. So I can refer to them, and the banks will pay me a referral fee to find the best loan project for my individuals that I work with. But I knew I had to get out of corporate, because I started to witness not just the disparity and the biases internally, but externally. And what I mean by that is some front end lenders, excuse me, my peers would, what I call, cherry pick applicants that would call for an SBA loan. And what I mean by that if you sounded like a certain
Okay.
culture, if you, right, or if you were a woman, a lot of times they wouldn't even call you back for the loan. There was just disparate treatment happening that I witnessed with my own eyes, and I would bring it up to the male supervisors, and they would just listen, but these men were top performers, and they would just dismiss it, because what was more important to the management of these banks was the numbers. We need loans, we need numbers. They didn't care how you got it. If you were a top performer and you cherry picked, well then so be it, because it helped them grow the numbers. I didn't agree with it. And quite frankly, in America, there are regulations that banks are not supposed to do that. But unfortunately, we don't have enough government help to track it on the front lines. And it happens to this day. And the reason why I say it happens to this day, I'm working with a couple right now in one of the states, and they're of African American descent. They have the college education, SHEILA, that I never have. They're wonderful people. She has an MBA. And the business broker representing the very profitable business listing that they absolutely can and will acquire with an SBA loan, the broker has been ignoring her and not calling her back with a full offer. And this is very common for discrimination on the front line externally, with these lenders and these brokers not helping a certain kind of applicant. And the good news is God placed me here in this business, because now my chains of corporate are off, and I can be more vocal about it, creating awareness that we have work to do in our country, and we must be practicing unity and diversity and equal and fair treatment of all applicants. It's in the writing of the manuals of these corporations, what they follow. They claim they practice it and they preach it, but their front line isn't walking it, and their management isn't adhering to it internally as well. What do? We just be a voice of reason, as positive as we can. And now that I'm outside of corporate, I can be that voice louder to support the people who deserve the support.
My God.
So thank you. Thank you for having me to be a voice on your show.
I'm excited when I interview people like you. And as you were talking, 2 stories came to mind, and I'm happy to share them. So I'm going to jot it down now, so I'll be able to share them now. One of them is CPR Rap. And the owner of CPR Rap is a black woman, and I interviewed her on podcast with SHEILA, and she had shared her story, brilliant story of how God had dropped in her spirit. I think she said she had a dream. God had spoken to her to start CPR Rap. So CPR Rap is like a first aid, something everybody should have at home. It's a first aid something, but you have it with you anytime somebody, if it's for animals, she's got it for animals, she's got it for human beings. Anytime somebody is running out of breath or can't breathe, CPR, it has a way, it's a small pack she's done, and it helps you provide CPR to people anywhere, any place, at any time. Now, she said when God gave her the business and she started the business, somebody told her the business will not be successful because you're a black woman. So if you want the business to be successful, you have to put a white face before the image. And she said that was not the dream God, that was not the vision God gave me, so I'm not doing it. And she didn't do it. Recently, I think just yesterday, and because she came on podcast with SHEILA, I follow her, she follows me, so when she posts, I see her post, and she's making millions. Is the product has gone everywhere, and I was just inspired by the post she made yesterday. And when I sit back and I look at it, I'm so excited. She stood her grounds. I don't think it should be about color. And I'll come back to that, because you have talked about diversity, and I want us to talk about it as well. I'm interested about it. But there's another story that I heard that a lady was telling me back then, about a couple of years back or so. And she was saying there's this school in Nottingham here, and I think it's for a particular group of people. And when you call them and you want to make inquiries about the school, you have to sound a particular way, else they don't want to talk to you. And this lady who was sharing the story with me is a black woman. But so she said amongst her group, they have another black woman who sounds the way they want to hear. So anytime they want to call the school, they call their friend in to talk to them. And immediately the friend calls and they pick the phone and they hear her voice. They carry on the conversation. But once it's a different tone or tonation of voice, they behave like the connection is bad or they're too busy. Can you call back later? Kind of thing. So when I sit down and I think about all these things, I just think that people have not been given the opportunity to be who they are, to be exactly what God was created them to be. So many people have not been able to express themselves just as ordinary and as original, that's the right way, as original as the people they were supposed to be because of some of these hindrances. And I'm excited that from your background and where you're coming from, you notice some of these things and you're doing something about it. I'll be excited that anybody who listens to this thing and is touched by it will be able to do something about it, because change begins with us. If I see it and don't do anything about it, nobody will do it for us. If I want to see change, I should be able to do something about it. I'm happy you're doing it, and I'm happy we're sharing this as well. If there's something more you would like to add, we'll be happy to listen to it. If not, then we move on to the next question.
Oh, yes. As you were talking, I think back to my young childhood days when I still did live with my mom before my dad took her away. As I mentioned in the episode prior, she was into drugs and drinking, and there were a lot of parties at our home that she and my oldest sister would have every night, but yet I still walked to school. And talking about discrimination, I grew up with a mom who had a lot of mental illness, but she also had hate for people of color. And it was awful for me as a little girl at age 9 to hear the stuff that she would say about other people. And I never really could understand it. So now that I'm having this conversation with you, SHEILA, this is the first time on a podcast show, as I tell this story quite frequently, that it just triggered me remembering how she was as a little girl, calling names to certain people from certain cultures, and I knew it was wrong. And here I am today, experienced it as I grew up still, and here we are in 2023, and it's still happening. But now I'm that big voice of reason, and boy, was that a big God calling, right?
Wow, let's move on to the bit where I read that you're a passionate believer in the power of diversity, my God. And for that reason, you are dedicated to changing the way we think about who can own a business and who can do this or that. I have two questions at this point. One of them is, what is the power that comes with diversity? And then the second one is, what are you doing to change people's perception about who can own a business?
Okay, so the power of diversity. I absolutely love the different cultures of what they bring to the engine of small businesses in all of the countries, that we live in. If we just have white men small businesses, it doesn't represent who we are as a world. And I think of eating different culture foods, and it's just such a great experience, and we need to open those doors up. In America, white men still are the number one applicant and the number one business owner. Women are making a change, but we definitely need to open up the doors for the rest of the minorities. We need to be diverse and be open to it and learn from one another. And your second question was, share with me again.
What are you doing to change the perception about who can own a business?
I'm being a voice of reason as much as I can in public, speaking as I am on this podcast. So I want to be able to be recognized as, the girl that is practicing unity and diversity in small business ownership. And I want these banks to hear my message so that management understands, now that I'm outside of corporate, I can speak to the truth that's happening, because if I was in corporate, that would have been a huge target on my back. And I had targets on my back. But now I'm outside of corporate, and I can honestly speak to the fact that there is so much work to be done to correct this. And I hope the SBA, which is an affiliate of our government, and I'm sure that in other countries there are other programs similar, I want our leadership in our countries to hear this message that we think it's okay, but it's not. We have so much work to do. So that's why God called me to represent women and people of color and stand up so we can pull ourselves back together and be a world that really is practicing unity and diversity. Not only talking the talk, but walking it daily. We have to walk it daily. Enough of the talk. It's time to walk.
My God, I'm happy we've talked about this. But do you know that we may seem diverse and different, but on so many fronts, we are just one body? Because I meet different people. Different women come to this organization. Indians, Chinese, people from Hong Kong, like different, all around the world, I can say. And when we talk, sometimes I would say yam. From back home in Africa, I call it yam. The Indians eat yam as well, but they call it something else. And when we discuss food and the way it's prepared and all of that, I see that the way we prepare our food is similar to the way most of them prepare their food. We call them different things, but they're all the same thing. So in essence, when you really, really look back and look into cultures, and we are the same but different. If I'm making it, it's just that I think that all of us are focusing more of our differences than on the things that bring us together as one people, and that is what is creating all the disparities, and all else would all be operating on the same level, on the same front, and we wouldn't be fighting each other for any reason, actually.
That's right.
And people believe in different things, but from what I believe, I believe that God is a God of diversity. And I always say that, can you imagine if every one of us in this world are of the same color, how boring it will be? If every one of us have the same size of nose, the same size of mouth, if we are all the same height, you go out and you see all that you see is tall people, how boring the world will be. Even with the diversity, the world is still boring. So just imagine if we didn't have diversity, how boring.
I picture zombies walking around, because there's joy in diversity. Exactly. There is joy to learn about others.
Exactly.
So I am blessed that my journey in life was hard. Who says that? But it's true. We're all blessed, because through those challenges, we're going to find our why. And I say our why is always attached to our who.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. How has your faith shaped the work you do today, and what has been your driving force in life?
Well, my mantra is, I can do all things with God, grit, and grace. And the grit, the grit was strong. All the times that I cried leaving employers that I was treated differently, and I was a hard worker. That's what my daddy taught me, remember? I don't have a college degree, but work hard and give it your all. And I'm a Gen Xer, and we were raised by baby boomer parents that you just give it your all to your employers no matter what, because they'll take care of you. And I always remember him saying that to me, and then through life, my journey through corporate, some took care of me, but not all. And I gave it my all. So God was always there for me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I felt like he wasn't answering me. And I think sometimes he doesn't answer because he's waiting for you to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he's not going to tell you what to do. Sometimes he wants you to discover what you have to do.
Yeah.
And now that I'm older and look back on all the hurt of my past, he was doing his work in me and I just didn't know it. So now my faith is stronger with him, and I'm thankful for the past.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for who I am today.
Yeah.
Because he created that in me. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I think a few of our episodes in the past, somebody had shared that sometimes we go through some lessons and we are wishing that the lesson ends, or we don't wish to go through it again, but then we keep going through because we have not taken out whatever we needed to take out of the lesson. So once you haven't gotten something out, you keep going through it until you actually achieve exactly what you need to achieve going through the lesson, else you don't really come out of it. I remember so many years back down the line, I had gotten to a point where all I thought of was suicide.
Oh boy. Yeah.
That was all I thought of. And I think just around that time I met my husband, and he was like, I'm going to borrow this word from you, a beacon of light.
Wow.
In my life. And then he'll say, oh, no, SHEILA, you're alive for a reason. I'm getting teary now. You're alive for a reason, so don't do that. Just be hopeful and know that if God is in your life, he's going to take you to a better place. And just recently I was talking to him and I said, can you imagine 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, if I had killed myself, I wouldn't have seen all the things I'm seeing today. I would have lost out on all of it. But just stay a little bit longer. I'm saying to anybody who's listening, just stay a little bit longer. Stay a little bit longer. It's going to be beautiful at the end of the road, or at the end of the tunnel. Whatever it is you're going through now, the dark path and everything, don't worry if you're walking through it alone. But believe and trust that if God brought a beacon of light to me, he can bring it to you. If you believe in him, he will definitely bring it to you. Just keep looking for that beacon of light. Don't give up yet, because it's going to be beautiful at the end. I look at my children and I'm so excited, and I'm saying to myself, if I'd killed myself back then, I wouldn't have experienced motherhood. I wouldn't have had my children with me. I wouldn't have even started a business and see it grow and impact so many lives, and people telling me, thank you very much for the things you've done in my life. So I'm thinking, God took me through all these difficult parts for these people, for these women, to make me what I am today, to be able to start this organization and have them partake of the blessing. You get what I mean? But then another thing is to know that when you cut down your life short, you're going to put a lot of people through difficult parts, because they were waiting on you to go through this challenge, to become what you have to be, for them to also benefit of it. Now that you are not there, somebody's life is going to stall, or somebody's going to go through a very difficult part for a very long time until someone else comes along the line. So I think life is, I don't know, should I say in sequence, or somebody depends on somebody. So once you take yourself out of that path, then that gap will be left for a very long time until someone else is able to fill in. Then life continues. I don't know if I was able to make sense, but I'm happy we've shared all of these stories today. And your life story is a very beautiful one as that, and I'm happy we shared it. But as we wrap up, what will your final message be to our listeners, if you have any?
Final lesson for your listeners. Number one, forgive. Because if you don't, you're going to carry that burden with you till you're called home. And I don't believe God wants you to come home with that regret on your heart. Forgive. Even if the person that made you angry is gone or no longer in your life, you can still forgive. Just let it go. And for everyone else, may we all practice unity and diversity and be a voice of reason. And it's okay if you see something to say something. But I always like to end a call to action to spread kindness to everyone, because we all know underneath it all there's a lot going on. And if we all can just be kind, no matter the gender, no matter the color, this world would be far greater than where we are today. And I believe we can do it. I really do. We just have to be the voice of reason, as I am, to keep spreading the message.
Exactly. My God. We would like to say a massive thank you, Deb, for coming on Podcast with SHEILA today.
Thank you,
If
SHEILA.
you've been listening in, this is Season 2, Episode 83 of our podcast series, where we bring seasoned guests with inspiring life experiences and stories to share with us. Do not miss out on all these lovely experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. Whilst at it, please drop us a rating. We have a video presentation of this episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Podcast with SHEILA on YouTube and you would find us. Our prayer for you this week is that you become an agent of change and a beacon of light wherever you find yourself. Together, we will make the world a better place. Until we meet again, have a brilliant week.